CHS.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we got a special guest, Comanche head football coach, Jake Escobar.
Yeah, and Coach Escobar and his Comanche Indians are coming off a huge win, 49-7 over Brady, in an outcome that I don't think many of us expected. This is a Brady team that was expecting to be very competitive this year, and Comanche just came out and really whipped them. So they're coming off a huge win, off a 1-9 season last year in Coach Escobar's first season. So that's a huge deal for their confidence. I'm excited to talk to him about that win and kind of what it can do for them going forward. But what an exciting first week for Comanche. They got to be feeling pretty good out there.
A stunning result. I'd like to know how surprising it was for the community and everybody else out there. That's a wow, because this Brady football team is a good football team.
Yeah,
and I
that's
still
the thing.
say they're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, I think so too. But that's the thing. Like when you're covering games on Fridays, you're getting some updates and things. And when I saw that score, I mean, my jaw dropped because that was not one I expected at all. But it's interesting because when you do this preview, everybody's optimistic, so you never quite know what to expect from a lot of teams. But I we'd heard some grumblings that the Comanche was expecting to be better, and they would certainly seem to have proven that in week one. If they can keep that going against a really tough non-district schedule, it'll be interesting to see what they can do once district starts, because I think there's a good chance that certainly if you look at my predictions, that certainly some of us probably underestimated them pretty dramatically.
I never look at your predictions.
Well, that's a good thing in this case. I'm glad. But it will be fun to see what they can do the rest of the year.
All right, before we jump into this week's show, we need to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stanford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. And with that, Dan, other than the Comanche ball game that we will talk in depth about with Coach Escobar, what are the ones that floored you, if any, last week?
Well,
I think the score of our Big Country Preps game of the week probably shocked a lot of people. But there was a story behind it. Jim Ned was missing about 9 kids that night. They were very shorthanded. But other than that, what scores around the area caught you off guard?
And I don't know about floored necessarily. The Comanche one was the one that really stuck out to me. But there were some really interesting scores. I thought the Coleman win 7-6 over Mason in a really defensive ball game. That one was one I thought was interesting. And then the game I was at on Friday, Wiley and Brownwood, 30-24 game that was really exciting from start to finish. So. But there were several really good, well played games this first week, which you don't necessarily expect all the time, just because a lot of times in these early weeks there is some sloppy play and things. But there were some really well played games, and that Wiley Brownwood was one. There were some mistakes made both ways, but you could see the talent both ways, and I think both those teams will be very solid going forward.
It's too early for me to throw in a "I told you so," because I'm always reluctant.
It's never too early. It's never too early.
But Bangs was up on a very good early football team. In the first quarter, early part of that ball game. That is a very good early team, and we know that for a fact. A lot of people are questioning Bangs are coming into this season, but I've been saying keep an eye on them. They lost 34-20 to what we know is a very good early team. I think they kind of sent a message with that final score. They lost, and we picked early to win that football game. But I think a message was sent that Bangs is somebody to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think so too. Score. And that was a one-score game into the fourth quarter. It was an 8-point game at the halftime. I think 8-point game after 3 quarters. So yeah, Bangs got outgained pretty good, but they were hanging around, and they had their chances there going into the fourth quarter. So I think that was one certainly that's a team to look to keep an eye on. And they got Comanche this week, so we're going to get to see. I think learn a little bit more about both those teams this week.
Another score that I was interested in keeping an eye on, I wanted to see what Wall brought to the table on their road trip out at Eastland. And this is a young Eastland team that, lost some quality personnel to graduation. And I thought a lot of people were probably, set the bar maybe a little too high for as young a team as Eastland is. And we got this Wall football team that brought in almost everybody from their defense from last year, most of their offense, and they win 49-20.
Yeah, and then along the same lines, another game that was kind of similar in terms of matchup, where you've got an experienced team versus a young one. Or yeah, the Cisco Clyde game. Cisco handled Clyde pretty easily, 41-13. But one interesting thing about that Clyde team is they passed for almost 300 yards against a good Cisco defense. So I think Clyde's got some weapons. They've got some explosiveness. I think we'll see some improvement from that bunch as they go forward as well.
All right, another ball club that we were keeping an eye on last week was De Leon, who came in to last week with a 15-game losing streak. We wanted to watch that Junction game closely because we knew that was an opportunity to snap that losing streak, and they did. But they did pull it off. They win 28-8 over the Eagles, and really look good doing it. That's a good-looking freshman quarterback they've got in Heston Job. Um, had a nice ball game, and he's already 6'1" and about 180 pounds, and as a freshman, you're already that big. How big is he going to be when he's a senior? This is an athlete to keep an eye on. I think the future looks bright for De Leon at this point.
Yeah, I think that was a big win. We talked a little bit, during the preview, that if they could get a little bit of confidence going before district play, that district probably offers some opportunities for some competitive games and potentially some wins. So this was a good start for them, not only to beat Junction, but to really pull away from them in the second half and win comfortably was a big deal. And along those same lines, it was neat to see Monday with in Coach Webb Murphy's first game as head coach get a win as well. They beat Mercy Culture Prep out of the Metroplex, which is obviously a struggling program, but I think at this point, when you're kind of laying the foundation as Coach Murphy is in Monday, all wins are good wins, and for them to go out and open the season with a win was a good one. They got an opportunity to put a little win streak together this week if they can beat TLCA as well. So good for Coach Murphy. It's nice to see him get off to a successful start.
All right, elsewhere around the area, some ball games that we were keeping a close eye on. Roscoe looking good against Colorado City, 46-20. Roscoe looking explosive early on. We expected that, but C City put up some nice numbers in that ball
Yeah.
game, didn't they?
Yeah, they showed some big playability, which I think is important for them, because that's been an offense that has struggled just so much over the last 3 seasons. They didn't have a whole lot of sustained offense, but they had 5 or 6 big plays that kind of gave them some opportunities, and they ended up with 3 touchdowns in that game, which I think is a good offensive start for them as well, especially against a Roscoe team that we know plays defense. We saw last year how good that Roscoe defense can be. So I think this was an encouraging start for both of those teams, honestly.
Now, some people might be scratching their head at that Albany score, 19-15 over Lubbock Trinity Christian, but we're talking about a private school here, and these private schools, anytime you tangle with a private school, you're taking a step up. That's a tough ball club. They eked out a win, a 19-15 come from behind win there for the Lions. That's a quality win. Another ball game that we were looking at, Haskell in its opener, 27-7. I wanted to keep a close eye on this ground and pound offense that Haskell's bringing to the table this year. Marquise Johnson, quarterback, 38 carries for 195 yards, 38 carries, and he still managed to complete double-digit passes. He was about roughly 13-21 thereabouts for over 100 yards passing. When you're taking that kind of pounding and you're still throwing the football that well, that's a heck of a night for him. That's a heck of a night.
And along the lines of a heck of a night, Breckenridge got off to a great start, obviously. 42-13 win over what we expect to be a very solid Jacksboro team. So that was another one that kind of jumped out at me a little bit that I didn't mention earlier. But that score, just the way that Breckenridge beat Jacksboro, I think is an encouraging start for them as well. I think you and I both expected them to be pretty dramatically improved. And that's kind of, I think, letting some other teams around the area know that this team certainly has the ability to be pretty solid this year.
All right, one other game that we were keeping a close eye on, the one of the biggest rivalries in the area, Coahoma and Forsan went at it last Thursday night. And what a ball game. Coahoma's up on them 13-0 after 3 quarters. Forsan rallies with 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to beat their arch rival 21-13 in Big Spring, where that game is traditionally played.
Yeah, and that's a young Forsan team, particularly in the skill positions. So I think they saw some playmakers emerge, particularly the Klagor kid at running back. He had a big game for him, and he's going to probably have a big season for him. But I thought that was an interesting game, because that series, it seems like every year that series comes down to the final drive or the final quarter. Those two teams always play really good competitive football games. And this one looked like it might be maybe a little bit more comfortable when you have Coahoma up 13-0 into the fourth quarter. But yeah, Forsan came roaring back, and that's a big win for him because that's I think a Coahoma team that expects to be improved, and a Forsan team that's trying to prove that it can sustain the success it had last season. So a huge come from behind win for Forsan.
All right, now let's switch over to the Abilene local ball clubs. This is a game that you attended, Dan, down at Gordon Wood Stadium in Brownwood. Wiley over Brownwood, 30-24. Both teams played, fairly well, but it's a ball game that Brownwood could walk away saying, you know what, we may have maybe we should have won that game.
Yeah, I think they're going to probably be looking at a few plays, kind of kicking themselves a little bit. They had three really big pivotal mistakes that really kind of cost them an opportunity to win that one. They in the first half they had a punt snap over the punter's head for a safety. They also had a pick six on a screen play that were on a first down from the 17 yard line to start a new possession. That was a quick change and a really big momentum shift rather. And then after cutting the deficit to one score, having an opportunity in the fourth quarter to go take a lead, they lose a fumble at their own or at the Wiley 5 yard line. So three really big plays that they're going to be looking back at and saying, what if? But at the same time, I think Wiley deserves a lot of credit. Wiley's offense was really explosive in the first half. They had over 290 yards of offense in the first half. And in the second half, Wiley really stood up strong defensively in some really tough spots because they played pretty much the entire second half on their half of the field, only gave up one touchdown. So I think this is one, honestly, that both teams probably come away feeling like feeling pretty good about where they're going. I think, but both teams have a lot of talent. Both teams have once they kind of get the train rolling a little bit, I think both teams have a chance to do some things in the districts they're in. And honestly, I was impressed with Brownwood. I mean, they made, like I said, three big kind of game-changing mistakes, but there's clearly some talent, particularly when you look at that offense, when you've got, I call at quarterback, a really good-looking athlete with a lot of ability, and as he gains experience and confidence, he's going to be very good. Conlon Anderson's already one of the area's top running backs. He was an 1,800-yard rusher last year. And then Jason Jackson at the receiving spot, he caught a deep ball and kind of showed the explosive threat he is as well. So Brownwood's got weapons. They've got big lines, and it's the same as kind of true of Wiley as well. So I think both those teams will be in good shape going forward.
All right, things did not go as well for Abilene Cooper on Thursday night, falling to Keller 34-16 in their opener.
And that was a really weird game because I mean, down to down, Cooper kind of dominated it. I mean, they held Keller to 200 total yards. They gained around 350 yards. They outgained them pretty substantially. And honestly, the game, I mean, they lost by what they did, but most of that came in the last couple of minutes of the game. They gave up a punt return touchdown. They gave up a fake punt on a 4th and 13 play for a long touchdown run, and then they had a pick six in the final minute. So that went from being a very close game to a 3-score game like that, and it was all special teams and one offensive mistake where they're really kind of in a desperation situation at that point. So I think Cooper has some positives to take from it. They moved the ball pretty well, particularly through the air. They're going to have to improve the running game, but they showed some real ability in the passing game, and defensively down to down they did a great job. It was defensively really all they gave up was the fake punt, and that was pretty much it. And then they do have to clean some things up on special teams, but that game was not nearly as lopsided as the score would indicate, and I think that Cooper had plenty to build on from that one.
All right, our final local football team to play last week, the Abilene Eagles, falling to Odessa Permian 17-3. Mixed bag of results there. Obviously, the offense isn't what they wanted it to be thus far, but they've got to be happy with the defensive effort against Permian at this stage.
And honestly, the defensive effort was even better than it would look from looking at the score. Before the defense got just kind of exhausted because the offense couldn't move the ball, they were holding up really, really well. That was a 1-score game into the fourth quarter, despite the fact that Abilene High only gained 49 total yards of offense and only had 3 first downs. So the defense spent pretty much the entire game on the field against a triple option offense. That's a challenge. It is really tough to hold up in under those circumstances. And honestly, Abilene High really did. They gave up some yards late once they were kind of worn down, but they still, I mean, they did everything they possibly could to give their team a chance to win. So I think it's kind of what we thought. We knew Abilene High's defense was ahead of the offense coming into the season. The offense is going to have a lot of things to fix, but I kind of go back to what Coach Fullen says. He is not worried. He thinks this team's going to make dramatic improvement over the course of the season. He thinks they have offensive playmakers. It's just going to take some time for those guys to kind of gel and kind of find their stride. But you have to be really impressed with what their defense has done so far.
All right, before we have Coach Escobar on, we need to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts throughout the school year. Also, for the love of the game broadcasting, and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of KLAX 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and 98.5 FM KWBY out of Ranger. That is for the love of the game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a new vehicle or used vehicle, give him a shout at 254-559-2266. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. That's Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And with that, Dan, it is about time to bring on the man, Jake Escobar. And what a stunning result. You beat a very good Brady football team 49-7. That's a message. This is a team you got to take very seriously. And coming off a 1-9 start, I don't think, or a 1-9 season last year, I don't think a whole lot of people were taking the Indians all that seriously coming into this year. How much could they improve after, off that? Apparently quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you want to see when you have the type of season they had last year. I think you really want to see something like this early that kind of lets everybody know, hey, we're headed in the right direction. I think that's exactly what this win does for that Comanche team. Is it just a giant shot of confidence saying, hey, what we're doing is working. Let's stay the course and keep moving forward. So I think this was a really big deal for what Comanche is doing, for what Coach Escobar is trying to build there. And I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of what they can do off this and see if they can continue to build off this, try to get a couple more wins going into district, and then see if you can challenge for a playoff spot. Because we've talked so much about District 5 3A Division 2 and just how competitive it is. There's just not a whole lot of separating the first team and the last team there. So if Comanche can get on a roll going into district, they definitely have a chance to make a playoffs, which I think would be a really big accomplishment coming off last season. It looks like he's about ready to join us, so let's go ahead and have him on.
And joining us now, Comanche head football coach Jake Escobar. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Coach, first of all, congratulations on the big win over Brady. Were you surprised by the lopsided result? Because this is a team that all of us, in the media, we were looking at the area teams. We expected Brady to take a big step forward. This is a highly regarded Brady football team. And all I can say is, wow.
Yes.
Did it surprise you?
Well, not the win didn't surprise me. Now, how much we won by, yes, sir, because I know they do a great job there. Coach has done a great job the last couple of years, so it did surprise me with the score. But our kids were very focused all week. Probably the most focused I've seen them since I've been here. We've talked about it as a staff, and our coaches were on point. It seemed like there was a lot of energy all week. When we would have our film sessions, kids were paying attention, asking questions. They're wanting to come up and watch film all week. So, I felt like we were ready to play the game. I just really didn't know because, we had a couple sophomores. Well, junior starting quarterback that didn't play quarterback last year. And then Sawyer Wilson, who's a sophomore running back. So we still had some question marks, but I knew our kids were ready to play. They've worked really hard. So, and our coaches have done a great job.
How big of that was that win? Just for confidence, obviously, this is was a big win for the program, for you guys, for what y'all are doing, and just what are some of the biggest things y'all do take away from it?
Man, I tell you, confidence, and confidence is hard to beat. I mean, if kids believe they can do it, they'll achieve things they didn't think they could, and so I think our confidence level has gone up. Now, yesterday I did chew on them a little bit just because I don't want them to. Nick Saban says don't eat the rat poison, so I told him that story and don't, because everybody's patting you on the back, and it's real easy to get complacent, but we've been through the fire. We went 1-9. This is just one game, and they responded really well today during the period. We went out and went over some things, and they were really focused again. So it's amazing how much a difference a year makes.
And that actually leads me right into the next question, because you mentioned obviously last year was a tough year record wise, probably not what y'all wanted to do, obviously. So what was the biggest difference, or has been the biggest difference, year 1 to year 2 with this group?
I think kids understanding our terminology, our verbiage, the tempo that we practice at, and the tempo we use in the game. I think that was a big difference maker on Friday night. We do some tempo stuff and we vary our tempo. And I think that kind of, it warmed down a little bit. And our kids knew that because that's all they taught. They talked about it. They've been talking about it since Saturday when we were watching film. They talked about how tired they were and how fast we were moving. So I think that helped us out a little bit. Last year we couldn't do it just because, I think we spent more time teaching how to practice. It was just a different tempo. When you do wing T, you're trying to control the clock, and they did a great job with that wing T. And that's what was always scary to me because, you're a little nervous coming in, regardless of how good a coach you think you are. Those kids got to respond to what you're trying to teach them. And, it was we spent more time teaching them how to practice at a tempo we wanted. And then also what was trips, what was, where they line up on trips, where they line up on doubles, where they line up on certain formations. And this year it's gone by so fast. It seems like our practice is just going by faster.
Coach, you knew coming in that you had a good group of athletes. You
Yes,
saw
sir.
the media expectations, Dave Campbell's and ours and the papers and all that. But what were your internal expectations between you and your staff and the kids out there? What were you expecting coming into this year?
That second year, you always still think, there's still some growing pains that you're gonna have to go through. There's still some guys that are going to be seniors that have gone through a program for 5-6 years with someone else. So our expectations were probably, middle of the road. We wanted to win at least 6 games and say, hey, we want to go win 6 games here, 5. But I guess about the start of tour days, about the first week after tour days, the coaches, we were meeting in the office and they said, Coach, we're better than what we think we're going to be. I promise you. And, I still had my doubt, I still had my doubts and I was still worried, just always stressing out about it. But they said, Coach, I'm telling you, we just got to fix a couple of things and we're going to be good. And so our coaches knew. Me, on the other hand, I was, pessimistic about it and still worried about how good we were going to be. But I think, our kids did a great job in the off season. They did a great job in the summer. And that's what I told them, if you work hard in the summer, then fall is easy. We don't have to implement many things because we've already implemented during the summer that time that we have now. If you show up every day, that's already part of the process. So the coaches felt like we were going to be pretty good.
And when you look at y'all's schedule, y'all kind of loaded up that non-district schedule after this
Yes,
game
sir.
against Brady. Y'all got Bangs, an improved Bangs team early,
Yes, sir.
Toller, Albany, some really, really quality opponents. How much of that was to prepare for what's going to be probably a hyper competitive district, just like it was last year?
Yes, sir. I think, I learned that last year when we played Early, who was pretty good last year. Brady was pretty good last year. Toller, Mason, those were all good teams last year. But I felt when we got in the district, I felt like it slowed down for our kids. I really did against Eastland and against Dublin. I mean, we were in the ball games. I mean, both of them. I mean, so I felt like the game slowed down for our kids. And after that, I realized that, I'm not worried about our preseason record. I just want to make sure we're prepared and ready to go for district. And I try to tell the kids that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So I took that into consideration. And I think you got to play good people in order to get better.
And when I saw that non-district schedule too, because I'm coming off a 1-9, it's very easy. I mean, you could line up a row of cupcakes if you wanted coming off
Yes,
a
sir.
1-9 because anybody's willing to play a 1-9.
No
As soon as I
doubt.
saw that non-district schedule, I was like, that's on purpose.
Sir. Yes, sir. Because
He's
I'm
doing it.
telling you, district was our kids were really, I mean, it was heartbreaking because we were like one play away or 2 plays away. And and it just didn't click for whatever reason. And I try to tell kids that, we've been through the fire, we've been through it. Now it's easier for us. So and it is, and that tough schedule, and Albany's going to be good. Everybody's good, and I tell our kids, and I try to get a little fire put in. I say, everybody called us because they wanted to play us. Everybody called us because they want to play us. So I told them, this is not on accident. They want to play us because they think they can beat us.
Right. Um, Tell us about the switch that you made. You touched on it earlier. Uh, it's one thing to go from a passing attack to a wing T, and I think that's an easier transition.
Yes, sir.
But when you go in the opposite direction, when you're going from wing T to throwing the football a little bit and going changing tempo and going
Yep.
faster, that's a lot harder.
It
Tell us
is.
about that year of, it was really a year of adjustment, wasn't it?
Yes,
It's just
yes,
getting
sir.
used to it.
Yes, sir, it was. And we even went under center a little bit last year just to I just wanted the kids to feel comfortable in something. I didn't want them. I was really worried that we could lose them. Sometimes you could lose kids. So we went under center and I tried to make them feel a little comfortable in it last year. This year we haven't gone under center, but like we do check with me at the line now. Our kids look over to the sideline. We got a tempo package where we go NASCAR and we're going full speed. I told the coaches the other day when we were going that tempo, that NASCAR, and I said, I just don't know if these kids can get it. I just don't know. Well, next thing you know, we're in practice and they're just boom, boom, boom. So they surprised me. And I think it's because they want to succeed, So and it has. It's been last year was really tough. It really was. But our kids did a good job last year of adjusting and getting better by the time district started as well.
You touched on this as well. You put yourself in the hot seat
Yes, sir.
by this last year, and I thought it was gutsy, because the old adage is if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
Comanche was not broken when you got there. They had been running the wing T and playing well,
Yes,
and
sir.
what you're doing was a radical departure. So you put yourself in a pressure situation.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
Tell me about that experience.
Well, my wife didn't think it was very fun because everybody I'm sure everybody's got something to say. It doesn't matter what it is, but
Right.
it was and I don't care how confident, and I mentioned this earlier, but in the back of your mind you're thinking, well, maybe we can't do this. Maybe we're a wing T team. Maybe this is what they are, and I can't change that. The only thing is I told the kids, I said, is we're going to still be physical. We're going to be a little bit faster. The game doesn't change. The game is still about being physical and being dominant up front. So that's the mentality we're going to keep, regardless of what we're in. That's what we're going to keep. And doesn't matter if we go fast or slow. We're still going to be physical up front. And our coaches sold that. And when our coaches sold that, I think our kids bought into it. And when it came down, I still remember this game, Jacksboro. Might have been the difference maker. We were down 15 with about 5 minutes left, and then we tied up with a minute 30 left. And it was because we were just going. I mean, we stopped them, and then we started going full speed. And I mean, it was like a 2-minute O for two series, and I could just see the kids change right then and there, and they started believing in it. And we lost that game because we gave up a couple passes deep, and they ended up beating us, and we still got to the 40 with 50 seconds left on the clock. We started from our own 20 and got to the 40 and almost had a chance to score. We threw a wheel route. And from that point on, I knew our kids were going to believe in what we were doing.
And kind of along those lines, you being a Comanche guy, did that help or hurt during that first year, just in terms of pressure? I mean, did that kind of buy you maybe a little more time to make that transition, or people have their expectations a little higher for you? How would you kind of describe that?
That's a great question because you're right. I think it helped me. It helped me buy some time. I've had people tell me, Coach, as long as you make these young men into great fathers and great community members, you're fine. We're not worried about the wins, but as a coach, you worry about that. And being a product of this community and this school, I think has bought me some time. There's no doubt about it. Because I try to get our kids out in the community as well. That's also a big thing for me, and that's why we do it. Just because I think it's important that you do that you give back and serve, but I also think it's important for our community to see our kids. But yeah, I think it played a big part. It gave me a little more time. People knew what I expected and who I was, and I was pretty much raised by this community. I was raised by my grandparents who didn't speak any English. So the teachers here and the coaches here pretty much raised me, and community members took me in. So I think that bought me some time. There's no doubt about it.
Coach, you touched on our next question as well. The community service projects that you guys do, and it's pretty heavy during the summer. But I was
Yes,
curious if, I mean, during football season, if you still find time to
yeah.
get out, or is it just too busy at this point?
It's pretty busy. We do it in the summer and in the spring. You know, we have like a pancake supper. They have a pancake supper down the fire department does, and we try to send kids down there to help. But it gets pretty busy right about now. We don't do much. We go open the doors at the elementary on Friday mornings. I send a few kids over there to do that, but not community service wise. We don't. You know, if there was time to do it, I would love to do it because I think it's been a big part of our program now.
Just along those lines, just one more. Just, I mean, how did that kind of help galvanize the team a little, bring the team together as well? Was that kind of a team building deal?
Yes, sir. That's you make a great point. And I always tell the kids, unity is a secret. You know, I think if a unified team will beat a lot of teams that aren't unified. And we talk about it all the time. So I think it has brought our kids closer together. You know, because when they're done with community service, they go somewhere and eat together. So I think it has created a little more unity amongst our teammates, amongst our team.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. We'll be keeping a close eye on you guys throughout the season, and
Yes, sir.
best of luck to you.
Well, thank you guys, and I appreciate everything y'all do for football in this area and the Abilene area. I know it doesn't get much coverage, but you guys do a great job, and we appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was Comanche head football coach Jake Escobar. Moving the ship in the right direction, obviously. They're off to a great start with a big win over Brady, and it's going to be fun to keep an eye on them in this non-district schedule. We're definitely going to find out how much they've improved with the teams that they're playing.
And one thing he mentioned I thought was really interesting that you don't really think about is when you do have a program that's been, you know, had a rough season going forward, how now you don't want the pendulum to get swung too far in the other direction off a big win like
Yes.
this. So that is going to be interesting to see how a still kind of young program and what they're trying to do, how they respond to success. Because last year we kind of saw how they've responded to some failure. This year we're going to see how they respond to success, and I think that's going to be a really neat aspect of the season going forward.
And you know what? From this point forward, nobody's going to say, "Oh, it's just Comanche."
No.
They're going to show up ready to play. You know, I don't know if they caught Brady off guard. If Brady showed up, maybe taken a little lightly, I don't know. But nobody's going to take them lightly from this point forward. That's not going to happen. So it will get tougher and tougher as they go.
Yeah, and we're going to learn a lot about this Comanche team over the next several weeks. We talked about that non-district schedule. You're talking about Bangs, Early, Toller, Albany. These are some really, really quality football teams. So I think this is going to be a really good stretch for Comanche to kind of show what they're about, what they're capable of. And I think it's also going to be a good opportunity for them to really grow and get ready for district play because, like I said, there are going to be some opportunities once they hit district. If they can continue to make progress on their way there, it's going to be really kind of fascinating to see what they can accomplish this year.
And with that, it's just about time to wrap up the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you we've got 3 separate subscription packages here at Big Country Preps. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription for $4 a month. And then we got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock that price down to $3 a month. $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
We'd also like to remind you that if you ever see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. We have digital downloads available for $7, as well as some keepsakes and prints. So make sure you check those out. As you're scrolling through the site, you'll notice pretty quickly that we take a lot of photos from these events we're at, and that we cover a lot of events. That's something that we are very proud of and something we really enjoy doing here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.